we have a coach speaker, and I'd like you guys to tag your coaches to get on the wake-up call this morning live. Okay, we've got the word commit or commitment, and I love what Danielle just said about recommit too, because it could be that every single time you start a program, okay, I'm not talking about myself here, but every time you start a program, you kind of fizzle out, you got to recommit. Okay, so it's not just restarting every time, it's just finally getting to that finish line, getting proof that our products work. But let me move it forward. Right now, she is our featured coach today. She's been coaching over 6 years. I cannot believe it. This is so great. I don't know why she wasn't on the wake-up call before, but she's been an elite coach 2 times. She is a 7-star diamond coach. And you guys, 78 months in Success Club. That means every single month she's helping at least 3 new people commit to a program, get a challenge pack, get into a group. And this she's been doing consistently, 78 months. Congratulations for that. Her team name is Team Fired Up, and she's from Kalispell, Montana. You guys, please welcome Kinsey James. Kinsey.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. Are you all energized from Keyshawn's wake-up call there?
They brought it. I'm so ready.
All right. So you had a wake-up call in your business, in your coaching journey. So why don't you share that with the team here?
Yeah, absolutely. And this goes together greatly with what Danielle just talked about. But I really became a coach after falling in love with a challenge group and the results that I got in this challenge group. So before I found this challenge group that changed my life, I was a busy mom of toddler twin boys. I worked full-time as a night shift labor and delivery nurse, and I was finishing my bachelor's degree online. So life was chaotic, and I still felt uncomfortable in that newfound mom bod, even 2 years after having my twins. I just felt stuck. So prior to joining that first group that came into my life, I was dragging my kids to and from the gym daycare in hopes to get like 45 minutes in on the elliptical, just to find myself even more discouraged than when I had not even gone to the gym because I just wasn't getting any results. So I had been watching this fellow twin mom friend of mine on social media for a while, and I just saw her rocking it. She had great results. She looked amazing. I could tell her energy was through the roof, and I just knew I wanted whatever she had. So one day she happened to post an ad on Facebook for this Fit for the Holidays boot camp. And I had no idea what it was, but I reached out to her because I knew whatever she was doing was working and I wanted a piece of it. So I reached out to her. She explained to me what this challenge group is. And I was so reluctant because I was very much anti-home workout at the time, even though what I was doing wasn't working. And, I was really excited. I decided to jump in with the Pio DVD set because that's what we had at the time. And to be honest, I jumped in with the least expensive DVD because I knew if I didn't succeed or I failed or I quit on myself, that I wouldn't have invested too much money. And I was also that person who refused to try Shakeology in the beginning. So I was that customer for her, but I was excited about what this group had to offer and I was ready to dive all in. So in my first group with her, I lost 12 pounds in 40 days and I felt so incredible. Everyone around me was noticing and I fell in love with the programs and the community and all of the amazing women that were in that group to support me. I felt like I was out of that toddler mom struggle bus bubble that I had been in. And I felt like I had friends and this tribe around me, even if they were all online. So I decided to do another group with her. And around that time, she invited me to become a coach. And I actually turned her down 3 times before I said yes. And I was so skeptical about becoming a coach. And it's funny because it's the exact skepticism I had around the topic that I'm talking about today, which is time management, because I was just so busy and I didn't think I could fit one more thing on my plate. And my husband even rolled his eyes a little when I told him I had signed up to be a coach because he knew how busy I already was. So initially, I didn't join for the business, though I knew there was a great opportunity there. I really joined because I got amazing results and I truly wanted other women and moms like me who felt stuck to get results and feel just as great as I did.
There's a few points that you're touching on today, and one of them is that you have to just keep inviting because timing is everything. And although you were skeptic and you said, no, we all know that no just means no right now. So somebody just kept inviting you and it finally was time for you. And thank you for sharing that. And I know many, many nurses that have a very difficult time staying consistent with their nutrition, with their fitness, because they work 312s or 412s, changes all the time. So this call is for people who have little time that keeps changing, hard to stay consistent. So talk about what this topic means to you, and then just go into your points. Thank you, Kinsey.
Absolutely. So, over my first few years as a coach, and even my first few months, really, I had to find consistency in really unconventional ways because my schedule is so unique. I work overnight in L&D, and I don't have a normal schedule, and I didn't have the same schedule that a lot of the other coaches on my team at the time had. I was fortunate enough to come into a team that had amazing upline trainings, and we were taught that success leaves clues. So I really wanted to follow those before me and follow the steps that they set forth in the vital behaviors and consistency. But when I tried to implement what they were teaching me into my own life, I just felt like I was always coming up short and I was failing at it because it just didn't fit into my schedule. So even though I couldn't follow the rubric that they set out, I knew that they had success, and I wanted to find my own way to recreate it. I'd hear from other coaches on my team how they would work their business, maybe their power hour after their kids went to bed, or they set up their weeks ahead on a Sunday evening. Well, for me, I worked 3 nights of the week. So my evenings at home were really sacred to be able to put my kids to bed those nights and also to have that unwind time with my husband. So I wasn't willing to sacrifice that time as other people could. And my weeks do not always look the same. Sometimes I work Sunday nights, so I couldn't set up my weeks ahead like these other coaches were teaching me. So as that brand new coach that I was, I had to go back to the drawing board and find ways to fit this business into my life and my schedule, and still find a way to be consistent with the vitals, even if it didn't look like how everyone else was doing it. So I came up with 3 concepts I'm going to share with you today that I still utilize in my business to this day, that have helped me for the last 6 years really have growth and success in my business, even with my really unconventional schedule. So my first tip is pre-planning 6 weeks at a time. So I started doing this really just because my work schedule would come out in a 6-week block. So take a look at your life in a 6-week chunk of time. What do you have going on? What does your work life look like? What are some obstacles coming up in those next 6 weeks that might make finding time challenging? We know we have work, doctor's appointments, family vacations, birthdays, weddings, you name it, life is always happening. So I'd schedule my challenge groups around life events I had coming up. I'd take inventory of when Beachbody was launching new products and programs and integrate that into my schedule as well. So here's a great example how I use the 6-week block format in my own life. So my family loves to go on camping trips. And sometimes we're in really remote places with very little cell service or no reception. And while being unplugged is amazing, I also had to be really creative with planning my schedule ahead of time. So if I knew I had a family trip coming up at the end of the month, I'd really need to focus on achieving my goals in the first half of the month. And for me, my non-negotiables are always Success Club and adding to my team every month. I also knew I didn't want to be starting a bod group right in the beginning of a trip I had coming up because I wouldn't be able to be as present and help my challengers get started. So here's an example of what I would do. 2 weeks prior to starting a challenge group, I'd start talking on social media, sprinkling in little seeds of advertising, talking about what my groups entailed. Maybe I'd share on my Instagram stories past challengers, testimonials and results, and share more information about my groups. So I just try and create as much interest as I could in those 2 weeks leading up to my group, having conversations and helping my customers get set up with their challenge packs. And then I would set up my bod group to start no more than 1 week before my camping trip because I wanted that to be my prep week. I wanted to be able to be really hands-on with all of my new challengers getting started. So I knew that I got all their questions answered. They were able to use their bod app. They were able to access their workouts all before I had that life event or trip coming up. My second example is how I utilize my vital behaviors during my work schedule when I am working. Because I work 12-hour night shifts back to back, my work life is really work, sleep, repeat. So I pick days of the week that would work best for me when I really want to work in my invites and follow-ups, and because I really want to be present in those conversations. So for example, if I know I'm going to be off Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I'm really going to focus on sending the bulk of my invites on that Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, I can use for my follow-up. So I can really be active in those conversations and follow up with everyone that I had invited on Monday and Tuesday. I'm also really upfront with everyone I'm having a conversation with. If I know I'm headed into a busy stretch of work, I simply send them a message saying, Hey, Susie, I'm so looking forward to chatting with you about my bod group. Let me know what questions you have. And if I don't get back to you right away, just know I'm headed into a busy stretch of work, #night shift life, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I think too often we feel so much pressure to just pick up our phone and respond to them right away because we're afraid of losing a sale or a customer. But I find that people respect my time more when I'm open and upfront about when I can get back to them. Again, I adapt the vital behaviors to best fit my life and my schedule. And one thing I want to add before I get on to my tip number 2 is that no matter how good of a plan you have, and you should have a system in place, but sometimes life happens, things come up. So it's as important as it is to have a system in place, it's just as equally as important to remain nimble and know when to pivot in your business. It's that flexibility to bob and weave that keeps you moving forward. So instead of just throwing in the towel because life doesn't go perfectly as planned, always remain nimble. Okay, my second tip is if you can't do all the things, just do one thing. To me, this is really where consistency thrives. Not giving up just because you can't check off every single box of your to-do list. I found myself really falling victim to this early on in my business. It was that all or nothing mindset that I really needed to overcome. So here's a great example of how I do this. So I know inviting is one of our most important vital behaviors, and it's one thing I simply cannot do at 3 o'clock in the morning on my break when I'm at work. So I know when I'm working, there are other things I can do to utilize my time, like listening to personal development on my breaks. I can throw in my AirPods, eat my lunch at 2 in the morning, and get in some PD. I've also been known to drag some coworkers into the break room with me and do a 10-minute ab workout. And maybe that's the only workout I'm going to get in for those 3 days that I'm working, but at least I did something. I also love listening to national wake-up calls on my commutes to and from work. I remember I had a really long commute when I was a brand new coach, and I would just listen to all the old national wake-up calls every day to and from work. So you can fit in those things in the cracks of your day. Sometimes you just have to be a little creative with it. And as much as I love creating pretty graphics and trainings and content for my challenge groups, I know showing up in my invites and my vital behaviors is really what keeps the needle moving forward in my business. There's this quote from The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy that I really love that I wanted to share. It says, "It's not the big things that add up in the end. It's the hundreds, thousands, or millions of little things that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary." All right, tip number 3. Lean on your tribe, and if you don't have one, build one. One thing I knew very early on in this business is that if I wanted to have success with my crazy unconventional schedule, I was going to need help. I truly believe coaching is a team sport, and I tell my team that all the time. So early on, I extended that olive branch to just anyone that I knew I wanted to work with. And maybe they had no idea what Beachbody was, but I got really brave and really intentional about how I did this. So what I would do is I had this tiny little journal, and I would just jot down names as they came into my head of people who were like me, who were busy moms, who wanted more out of life, even if they didn't know it yet. And I would just start reaching out to them. I really wanted to work with other busy people because if they knew I was busy and I was making this work, they would look at me and say, okay, if she can do it, so can I. So I just start sending out this really simple invite saying, "Hey, Stacy, super random, but have you ever thought about being a coach and doing what I do?" Now, very rarely did anyone ever come back and say, "Heck yes, girl, sign me up." I mean, I know those unicorns exist, but it didn't happen to me. So this was truly meant to be a conversation starter with someone. I was surprised that many of the women I reached out to did have interest and they did want to know more. So I was just start to have an early conversation with them about coaching. So I want to get back to how this relates to time management. So I knew being able to divide and conquer my tasks would help me a ton, especially on days when I worked. So I started to link arms with other girls on my team who wanted to do the same. I also needed to come to the realization that it's okay to ask for help. And I know that's really hard, especially for people who are moms or people who just kind of do it all in their life, but you have to be okay with asking for help sometimes. So here's a few ways I would team up with my teammates to alleviate some tasks on myself. So I would tag team running challenge groups. And I love doing this with other coaches on my team. I especially love doing this with new coaches on my team because a lot of time it can be so intimidating to host that first challenge group by yourself. So doing this is a great way for them just to get their feet wet and feel a little less intimidated. But we would divide tasks with these other coaches, such as creating meal plans, taking turns posting to our group, going live. One of us would post our group homework for 1 week. The other of us would take the next. And it was just, we tried to share all the duties we could to make it as seamless as possible. This really allowed me to pre-plan my 6-week schedule even better, and it just took some things off my plate. And building a team was a way I knew I could relieve stress and just improve my productivity overall. So I knew if I didn't have to create that content for my bod group that week, I could focus more on maybe inviting to coaching or my team calls, creating social media content, etc. And now I know there's probably a lot of new coaches listening to this call sitting there like, Kinsey, I'm just a team of one. And we all started as that team of one. And it just takes that one person for you to reach out to and link arms with. And all of a sudden you are a team and you have that person to work with. So create that list of people in whatever journal you have, start jotting down names and simply say, hey, do you want to do this with me? And extend that olive branch over and over and over again. And with those like-minded, strong, nimble people that you really want in your corner. So those are my 3 tips, Sandy.
You know, I have so much I've written down, and I even have what you were talking about today. But, you know, we started the call talking about commitment, you know, and committing to a program. And then what you talked about is being consistent. And I loved what you said. It's overcome the all or nothing thing. You know, this is not about all or nothing. This is about consistency. And consistency doesn't mean Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Consistency means showing up whenever. If you can do one thing, that's great, but no need to feel like you have to do all the things. Oh my gosh, I wrote down so much, but I have commit, consistency, and then community. Like, I remember being a new mom that you know, it takes a village, right? It takes a village that you need help picking up your kid from school, or you need help making the snacks. And with everything else, community, you have to build the community that ultimately supports you. And that's what you've done. And in order to make coaching work for you at the times that you can do the work, you have built a support group that can handle things in your absence. I love, love, love everything that you said. And I hope that people will listen to the replay of this because you gave great, great tips. I do want to ask you, in all the 6 years, has there been one thing or a key factor in your success?
Yeah, so I think it's funny because I think over the last 6.5 years, there's really only been one thing that has ever remained completely the same from day one for me. And it's my mission. And it probably sounds familiar to you guys, but it's to help people live healthy and fulfilling lives, and really to empower others to take control of their health and fitness from the inside out. And besides that one concept, nothing else in this business has remained the same, or my life rather. Social media has changed. My life has changed. My kids have grown up. I've changed jobs multiple times. Heck, we went from workout DVDs to online streaming to now Body coming out in a few months. So in the midst of all of this change that's inevitable, it's the principles that I highlighted today that have really kept me afloat during seasons of change. So I've utilized my 6-week schedule as the foundation for my time management. In busy seasons of my life, I've made sure to show up where I can, even if I can't do all the things. And I've really leaned on my team for support. And before I close, I really just want to share a quick story about how the principles I shared today really pulled me through a difficult time in my life that afforded me the opportunity in my business to thrive rather than fall when it very easily could have. So this was the year that my team was pushing for Elite for the very first time. I had just locked in 4-star, I was in 5-star qualification, and we were just on fire. And then life stepped in and threw me a little bit of a curveball. I had received a call that my dad had experienced a massive seizure and was inevitably diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic brain cancer. His diagnosis was very grave, and on the day I locked in 5-star, we were told that my dad had very little chance of survival and was placed on hospice care that day. And as much as I just wanted to pull back on everything in my life at that time, my business included, I found myself leaning in. I leaned into my coach sisters who rallied around me, my challengers who kept me strong, and this amazing network that kept me from giving up on my goals. The harder I leaned in, the more support I received. I knew I wasn't going through this alone. I kept my schedule the best I could, my trusty 6-week pattern, and though I couldn't do all the things, I showed up where I could. I still needed to show up as a mom, as a wife, as a nurse, as a coach. And it's because of the foundation that I had built in my vital behaviors and the relationship with my team that I was able to stay afloat. They stepped into host team calls for me, take trainings off my plate, and supported me and helped me through it all. So my dad did pass away that October, just before I was attend my first leadership conference and just before my team achieved Elite for the first time. It was really hard not seeing my dad as my top Instagram story viewer, watching it all happen and celebrating right alongside me, as I always had, because he was my biggest fan. But it would have been even harder disappointing him, knowing I had let go on all my goals just because of what was happening to him. So my point to all of this is, life never takes a day off, you guys. You must remain nimble. You must lean into this community for help and not pull back, but rather lean into the foundation that we have built.
What a story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And when we first started talking and we disguised this topic as time management. Time management is not very sexy, but showing up for the people who are counting on you is very sexy. So with that, I'm going to say thank you again for all your hard work, putting together a very, very wonderful presentation for everybody to go back and listen to, because you are a working nurse, a full-time mom of twin boys. You have a very erratic schedule, but you show up. You've been here consistently. You commit, you're consistent, and you've built a strong community. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandy.
All right. That is it for the call, you guys. We started the call off with commit. We had huge announcements from Keyshawn Graves. Thank you so much, Keyshawn. Lot is going on this week. So get your coaches focused on one thing only: commit to a program, and bring someone with you and start a bod group next week, August 2nd. We want to hear all about it from you. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you here next week. Bye-bye.